Welcome to the Myself Wellness Podcast. I'm Charles Patti, the voice of Myself Wellness, along with my co-hosts Christina Thomas and Jamie Veneziale. 9 years ago, I began my journey to self-awareness and healing. Like many who have faced personal struggles, I felt lost and struggled to find lasting healing. It wasn't until I discovered alternative healing methods that I began to see a real change in my life. This show will help you unlock your true potential through healthy lifestyle practices and transformations. Join us as we explore personal stories, expert advice, and practical tips to help you step into your true potential and level up. Welcome to the Myself Wellness Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Myself Wellness Podcast. Today we have Matt Bell, who is the owner and founder of Team Recovery, a string of addiction treatment centers. Maybe you can tell us where they all are. Where are they?
Yeah, so they're actually all in Ohio.
In Ohio?
Yeah, I was born and raised there. So we have, I want to say at this point, probably 17 different buildings. Actually, I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but it's around that number. I lose count sometimes, and there's the growth over the last couple of years has been nothing short of abnormal. So there's just a huge need in Ohio. So, but everything is in Northwest Ohio, specifically in Toledo.
Well, welcome to Naples, Florida.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
being
so
here
much.
with us
I appreciate
today.
it so much. Yeah.
So I want to get into the way that like another synchronistic thing that kind of like evolved, out of thin air was I was on Facebook and I'm scrolling one night, right? And then all of a sudden I see a video of Matt pop up and he's talking about recovery and and I see that he's doing all of this good work. And so I started following him. And it was weird because I got one of those feelings where it's I think I'm probably going to end up connecting with this person, right? And all of a sudden, one day I'm leaving the gym and Christina was like, hey, will you come drop me off a smoothie? And I'm like, sure. And,
I was at the beach.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was at the I was at the gym. She was at the beach. And she's like, will you come drop me off a smoothie? And I'm like, sure. So I go get the smoothie and I pull up to the beach and I'm trying to find somewhere to park because there's a whole bunch of people there. And then there was paramedics there or something. So there's an ambulance going on. So I did a loop around this circle and I looked over and I see Matt standing there and I'm like, no way. I'm like, there's no way.
Not even how it happened. Okay, I'm sitting there chatting with the man. You missed that whole part.
Yeah.
I didn't know who he was.
Well, I didn't know Christina was talking to him. So then I take another loop around the circle and then I pull up and I stand up out of the car and I looked at him and I'm like, I think that's Matt Bell. And so I'm like, hey man, is your name Matt? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, no way. And I'm like, I follow you, man. I follow you on social media. And then it was even crazier because we're sitting there talking to Matt and we're chopping it up, right? And then all of a sudden Christina looks at me and she taps me and she's like, that's JP Spears. And then JP Spears was walking up and it was just this totally
it was a day.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. But awesome how it all plays out. And so listen, thank you for what you're doing for the world. I appreciate you. Thank you what you're doing to help and be of service. And and I think that this goes back to this level of stoicism that I kind of have where it's we go through these really dark times in our lives and I believe that it's all perfect. It's all synchronistically perfect how we went through all of that to get to where we're going and now we get to be of service and help other people. And and I love how you're living in the light now. And I also love the fact that you're somebody that made it through some dark times and some trials and tribulations, and now you're rocking it, man. You're really doing big things to help a lot of people. So I salute you for that.
Thank you so much.
And so I would love to kind of hear a little bit of, and we don't have to get too much into it, but kind of where you were at, how things evolved for you, and then when you got to the place where you got clean and stuff like that, and then how it led to you opening these amazing centers that are helping people.
Sure. So I'll give you the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if it wasn't that, we'd be here for I don't know, a couple weeks. Just talking about synchronicity. I grew up in a small town in right outside of Toledo and never saw drugs, alcohol, abuse, neglect. Never. I had, by all definitions, a very good childhood and a very good life, and had great parents. And in fact, I had a girlfriend in 7th grade. I went to a private school And I had a girlfriend in 7th grade. Her name was Jenna. Shout out to Jenna. She smoked a cigarette and I broke up with her. And it wasn't even a conversation. Like it was, I called her. You remember the phones that were clear, that had the actual cord on them where you could see the inside where it would light up when it would ring? I called her on one of those. I said, I think that's disgusting. I don't want anything to do with you. That's not how I was raised. We're breaking up now. Like so that was like 7th grade. Fast forward a year and a half. I get to high school, again, a Catholic high school, all guys. And all of a sudden it was just very competitive and I was uncomfortable for the very first time in my life. I was very comfortable my entire life. And now all of a sudden I was feeling all these feelings. I didn't recognize it then, but like hindsight looking back, just a ton of insecurities and fear. And my father, who I was very close with, passed away when I was a freshman. And so it was just this perfect storm of life, of feeling very uncomfortable, losing my best friend. Now all of a sudden I wanted to fit in. And I tell people, I do a lot of prevention work in schools. And I tell people that it had nothing to do with drugs and alcohol. My first addiction was your approval. I just wanted to feel okay because I wasn't feeling okay. And it started ironically with a cigarette, because all I knew, and I hated it. It was disgusting. It didn't taste good. It made my clothes smell. I knew I'd get in trouble, but all I had to do was inhale, and I was part of the crew. And so it was just this snowball effect of cigarettes turned into alcohol, and then alcohol turned into cocaine, and then to marijuana, and then we were popping pills. And I found myself loving the effect that substances gave me. Everybody else just kind of did it because it was like socially acceptable. It was a thing to do. I did it not because of I loved who it turned me into. I loved the pain that it took away, all these things that I was feeling, these fears and missing my father, all that was gone. And so I would look at myself and, these guys would drink 3 beers and I would drink 8. And I just always did more and more, and I wanted more. And then I'd wake up the next day and be like, I want to do that again. And so I was like the wild kid. I went from like this straight A student my whole life to like the whole city of Toledo knew me as the party guy. And I moved out when I was 18, still a freshman in high school, And I got my own apartment when I was still a senior, and it just exploded. I got a full ride. I still managed. And every time I got in trouble in high school, I got away with it. There was no consequences. And if there's no consequences for things in life, I don't think anybody will ever change. But I got a full ride to the University of Toledo playing baseball, which was like my favorite sport, still is. I love the game within the game. And Scout Day, my freshman year, all these scouts are out there. I had the best scrimmage of my life, tore my rotator cuff, got prescribed 90 Percocets for an outpatient surgery that I had. And I remember taking the first one and telling myself, like when it hit my bloodstream, and that was the first time I experienced opioids. I'd experienced everything else until then. And I told myself, like when it hit, and I was in my bathroom in that apartment, I remember it like it was yesterday. I said, I want to feel like this every day for the rest of my life. This is amazing. This feeling that this substance is giving me is like, it's better than anything else that I've ever felt in any other substance. And so I started doing the same thing that I did with, if 3 beers is good, 8's got to be great. I did the same thing with the pills. And by the time that prescription was gone, I was physically dependent on them. I was not an addict yet, by definition. I was dependent on those. And I remember waking up after that script was gone the next day, and I had all these weird symptoms, and I typed them in my laptop. And it was saying like, opioid dependency and withdrawal symptoms. And I was like, no way, there's no way. I'm a Division I NCAA baseball player. Like I'm not an addict. And so I shut my laptop, had to go to class real quick. And after class, I called my friend. He said, just go buy another one. Here's my best advice, like go buy another one off the streets now. And if you take it and it takes the symptoms away, then you are hooked. And that made like perfect sense in my mind. I was like, this is a great process to figure out if I am or if I'm not. And sure enough, it took the pain away. And I was like, oh my God, but I still didn't do anything about it. So it just escalated to, Percocets became very hard to find. That's when I graduated to Oxycontin.
That was my downfall too, man.
Oxycontin, man. I mean, I it was like a fixed fight, like every time I stepped in the ring, I was sure to lose. There was no winning. And then those, there was a couple doctors in the area that were just selling scripts, and then they both got raided at the same time. And that's when heroin really, like, it was already in Toledo, but that's when like the cartels and they were like, we can capitalize on this. There's no more oxy. There's a plethora of addicts in this area. That's when black tar heroin really hit Toledo, and I didn't even ask what it was. I just knew I needed to not feel sick anymore. And so 10 years of heroin addiction, 28 rehabs, 13 arrests all over the country. I'm a felon, and I was a felon in 3 states. I've since gotten all those expunged. I've overdosed 3 times. I was on life support in the ICU. I was supposed to not come back from it. I mean, my family, I have pictures of my family coming up and saying their goodbyes. And I was homeless for the last 2 years of my addiction. And I had nobody. And that was the hardest part. I had absolutely nobody. I mean, it's cold in Ohio. And so being homeless in Ohio is already hard enough, but being homeless with absolutely nobody to talk to you or take your phone call or let you get a bottle of water. I mean, it's not like I was like couch surfing. I was sleeping in abandoned buildings wherever I possibly could, doing anything that I could to survive. And I never thought that would happen, you know, like great life, great home, private schools. And here I am just doing unfathomable things to just make it one more day. So I got clean in 2015. I was actually going to take my own life. I went to my mom's house, asked her if I could just come in her garage, because I wasn't even allowed to see my mom go in the house. None of that was allowed anymore. I asked her if I could just go in her garage because it was a cold night, and I did not think that I was going to survive. It was that cold. And she said, if you don't get off my property, I'm calling the police. You'll always be my son, but you're no longer my child. And I could tell that someone coached her to say that. She didn't know how to say those words. And I found out later that she had been going to some family support group meetings to learn how to take care of herself. And that's the next day I got sober. I went to my 28th rehab, and I've been sober since.
That's like a lot of the things that you just talked about seems like a mirror of my life, man. You know, it's like I started popping the, hydrocodones and Percocets and stuff like that when I was younger. And then all of a sudden, when I was about 18, I had my first Oxy 80. And I was just like, I figured it out. This is what I need for the rest of my life. And it's amazing because I don't get so drunk that I'm blacking out and making an idiot of myself, and the hangovers aren't bad or whatever. And I remember when they first came out, I was getting them for like $20 a piece.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, oh, this is perfect. And then all of a sudden they started becoming like $30 a piece. And then they were $40 a piece. And then they were like $1 a milligram. And so the thing is like, nobody can really sustain that kind of, especially when you're doing multiple pills a day. And then so the same guy I was getting them from was like, well, listen, man, I got heroin. And it's like, it's way cheaper and it lasts longer and it's stronger and all of this. And I was like, oh, well, this is perfect. Okay. And that was like the start of the downfall, and like same thing with getting in trouble, no consequences. My mother enabled me a lot throughout my life, and I didn't really feel the burn. And then, it was just like, years of unmanageability until finally I got into trouble so many times that I had that conversation where it's just like, she's like, I can't do anything for you anymore. And she basically cut me off completely. And I think that's really important for people, is like, when you're talking about having somebody that's enabling you, or you're having that situation that's robbing you from your bottom, that you're basically killing somebody at the end of the day.
100%.
And so I'm incredibly grateful for the fact that I was completely cut off and I had to go through those dark times. So after you went to the detox day and you ended up getting clean, what was like, how was the shift like from, living on the streets to getting clean to really, how long did it take you to really start getting on your feet and start doing like, productive things?
It probably took me, people ask me this all the time, like, what was it? Like, what was different this time? And I am so sincere when I say this, that it was not me. It was other people around me. It was who was in that, again, going back to like synchronicity, it was who was in treatment that time. I was ready to leave against medical advice on day 2. I went in October 15th, and on October 17th, I was ready to go. And same stuff. I was sick. I had already found somebody else that, we were going to leave together. He was going to be the driver. I had the syringes stored away somewhere. Like I had already planned my relapse before I even went into that detox. I had everything set up and I was just used to failing over and over. But as I was on my way out, I was up for 2 days, puking and not eating and all this, not sleeping, all the stuff that comes with withdrawal. And I was on my way out, walking out. And there was this guy in his room that had gotten there the day before me. So he was on day 3, I was on day 2. And he was doing push-ups in his room. And I was like I was like, he must have not been doing as much drugs as I was, like whatever, that's good for him. But then I was walking towards the nurse's station to tell him I wanted to leave. And I was like, I'm gonna look at him again, I walked back and I was like, same size, same weight. You could tell he's like a shell of who he was. It's not like this dude was like a bodybuilder before he came in a couple days ago. Like he's just as weak and malnourished and everything as I am. He's probably broken just like me. And he's doing push-ups. Maybe if I just stay one more day, I'll be able to feel a little bit better to where, because I missed sports. I missed feeling like myself and all that sort of stuff. And I'll tell you that it was truly just seeing a guy doing push-ups with one more day than me that convinced me to stay. And I connected with that guy. He actually, he was a fighter and he loved boxing and he became a really good friend. But we started this thing and it sounds super corny, but on that day we were like, we decided to just do something different. Instead of saying like, let's leave to go get high together, let's hold each other accountable and not let each other leave. Like we had all been in detox so many times. Like everybody in there knew each other. Like we knew each other either from the streets or from being in detoxes. And we were like, listen, we're all going to stay. You guys in? If I'm going to leave tomorrow, like you guys pin me to the bed. Do not let me leave. I'll hold you accountable if you hold me accountable because we can't hold ourselves accountable right now. And we were like, all right, let's get out of bed and go to like the group session that they have going on. And I was like, let's start a team. Let's start a team. They're like, that's really corny. That's really, really corny. But I was like, whatever, man. Like we all have a role here. Like it's really like a team. Let's put our hands in the huddle and say 1, 2, 3 team recovery. And we did it before the group. And we started doing that after every single group or before every group. And we just helped, and we felt like absolute death, man. But we did that every day. And it sounds so corny, but we needed something corny because nothing that we were doing was working. And that's really what it was. It was a band of brothers and sisters. We ended up going then. We were like, you know what? We're not just going to do a detox. We're going to do 30 days of inpatient residential. And then we're going to go to the recovery house and we're going to keep doing these things. And to answer your question, I know that was a very long-winded answer, but it started really on day 2 of being around those people. And then we just, treatment's going to give us A, B, and C. But what can we do with each other to do D, E, F, G, H? And we took recovery by the horns. And the same principle of like that guy with 3 days clean helped a guy with 2 days clean to get to day 3. I always thought that you had to have so much clean time to help other people. And so we just started getting active and we got a lot of like blowback from that. Like you guys are probably still going to fail. You don't have enough clean time. Like you shouldn't be doing this sort of stuff. And we were like, you know what? Even if it doesn't help anybody else, it's helping us. So I don't care what you think. And it just started with, we actually held signs. We went, as soon as we got to the recovery house, we asked the recovery house director if we could go downtown on the busiest intersection and hold signs that said, honk if you hate heroin, heroin's killing our town, all these different signs like that. And originally she said no, because we weren't allowed to leave. We were on lockdown. And so we gave her a plan. We wrote it out. Like, we're leaving at this time. This is how we're getting there. We're going to do this. This is when we'll come back. We'll do a breathalyzer and a drug screen. Like, gave her a whole, like a plan for this little mini event. She was like, I've never seen anything like this before. Today, she's my chief operating officer at Team Recovery. But she gave us a chance. She gave us a chance when she should not have. She probably could have got fired for letting us go out. But she gave us a chance. And it was that sign holding event that went viral, made the news. We had 7 followers on our Facebook page, Team Recovery at the time. And the next morning there was like 500,000 shares and 200,000 likes, and it just went crazy. So then we were like, we need to get a phone number. We need to, we need to do this. We need to do that. We need to start speaking at schools. We came up with a strategic plan. We developed a board of directors, decided to turn it into a nonprofit, had judges and attorneys and all these people from our community were like, we want to support this. This is a good thing. I don't care how much clean time they have. And so when I was an IOP, I don't know, 120 days clean, we had received that IRS letter that we got it approved as a nonprofit charity, and had a fully functioning board of directors, and it was like, we got to keep going with this. And so that was about 9 years ago.
James Clear talks about this, but habit is really just a formation of your environment. Like, your environment is as equally as important as the habit itself. Mm-hmm. And it seems like you guys just built an environment. And I tell the people that I work with all the time, build a brand that you want to work into.
100%.
Hold yourself to a standard that you want to grow into. You might not be there right now, but if you set that as like, this is the person that I'm going to be, nothing better than creating an entire nonprofit around it. It's like, oh, I can't, like, legitimately, I built a world for myself where I can't fail. Like, I legitimately can't fail. When did it click for you where you were like, was that 6 months a blank at that point, because it got so much easier in a sense, the more momentum you had?
I would say it's still getting harder because there's just more responsibility now, but when I say harder, that's subjective. It's just, it's more work and thinking. So like, I had never done anything up until that point in my life. I played baseball at a collegiate level, but that was like my highest achievement. Running I had no clue how to run a business. Like, when I got clean, I couldn't speak to people. I could not look people in the eye and put words together to formulate a sentence. And so, obviously I had a 300 credit score. I could not bank with any banks. I had overdrawn from every single bank. I mean, just you name it. My license was suspended indefinitely in the state of Ohio. Actually, when I got clean, I had 3 felony warrants, one in Michigan for a home invasion, one in Pennsylvania for grand larceny or grand theft, and then one in Ohio for grand larceny. And all I knew is that it felt good. Like, it felt good, and our intentions were pure. And I just had faith. I remember calling my wife now, she was my girlfriend at the time. I remember calling her and telling her on day 3 of detox, I was like, hey, we just started this team recovery thing, and this is what it is. And she was like, yeah, that's cute. You know, it's really cute, Matt, but you should probably like think about getting a job and stuff like that. And I went and got a job. I got a great union job. I was making like $30 an hour, and I hated it. It just did not feel good. And so at what point did it click and just be like, this is what I'm meant to do? Like, honestly, from like the very first day that we did it, I knew on that very first day that this is what I was meant to do for the rest of my life.
That's dope.
From the very first day. And it's gotten harder in a lot of ways. You know, it like I said, it was all volunteer based for really 6 or 7 years, you know, and we had to figure out how to make that work. And we did. And I never gave up. Today we have 150 employees.
Yep.
And that's just happened over the last 2.5 years. And so that's harder in a sense, you know, having employees, learning how to deal with employees, learning how to take care of employees, learning how to set up that system, right? And but then again, we've attracted so many amazing leaders within the organization that the burden has been lifted from myself personally in a lot of ways. And even learning to delegate and saying it doesn't need to get done Matt's way. It just needs to get done.
Yeah.
And so things like that, where it's gotten harder, but when it gets harder, then there's more things to learn. And that's what I love. I love that. It goes back to the game within the game. I love the game. I love the insurance companies telling us no, right? Like, how do we figure it out? How do we figure that piece out and turn that no into a yes for the client?
Yeah.
Right. So it's fun. And I don't know. I honestly can't see myself doing anything else.
So then you go through this phase of it being volunteer based. I talk about the war of attrition all the time. It's like you will go through something long enough to either win or pretty much anything. Like, you're either going to quit, you're going to win. Mm-hmm. And there's really no in between in that sense. I think if you have what you have, which is this undeniable confidence that I am meant to do this in this world, there's nothing that's going to tell me that it's not going to work. So it's just a matter of how much can I put up with? How much can I set myself up to be able to handle things? Stress management, that's interesting. Like, that's kind of a question I wanted to ask, because it's like coming from needing substances to relieve stress, kind of take yourself elsewhere in a sense. How did you manage that while you were going through the war of attrition before things kind of hockey sticked?
That's a good question. For whatever reason, I am able to handle a lot of stress. That's just the way that I'm built. Even like when I go back to the days of sports, if we needed a run and it was the bottom of the ninth with 2 outs, like I wanted to be up to bat. I wanted that pressure. I've always thrived under pressure. And the same thing in addiction. I woke up with nothing and I had zero money and no transportation and no phone. Like you're not telling me no. I'm coming up with $20 to get high and get off of that sickness. And so I had that in me my whole life. And I think that addiction honestly reinforced that in a way where it's like, and I talk about this with my clients all the time. I ask clients like, what are your strengths? And they're like, I don't have any. Like it's weird to talk about yourself and talk about what you're good at. And when you come into treatment at a vulnerable point in your life to say what I'm good at, like, I don't know. But I would say you're good at a lot of stuff. I'd say you're very resilient. I would say that you're a survivor. You're a fighter. You're here again after 27 failures. You're not giving up. All these different types of things. Folks are dying left and right, and you're still here. You have all this wreckage to clean up, and you're ready to do that. You've admitted that you're wrong. You need to do something different. Like there's an underlying sense of humility in that, and I think that with humility and that like ultra resilience, that I'm not taking no for an answer with anything, doesn't matter what it is. I've always hustled. And the thing that I love about hustle is when I'm hustling and the other people are hustling too, like I know if I'm tired, I know they're tired too. I know they're tired. And so when they go home at 5, I'm working 6 more hours. I just got a whole nother work day out of it.
Yeah.
I got 2 days when you got 1 day of work. And so, I don't know. I love the stress. I love the pressure. It doesn't bother me. I think I actually do better in stress and in pressure. I took a predictive index, I don't know, a couple months ago. And like, I have to have the ability to compete. I have to, or else I will leave that position. I have to have the ability to create my own schedule, to compete, to think outside the box, to use that mental sharpness and be creative when everybody else is tired.
I talk about this all the time, and I'm like, people with an addictive personality have a superpower.
100%.
And it's like,
and sometimes they don't even know it.
How hard did we used to chase whatever our drug of choice was, right? We're going to make sure we got that no matter what. And I mean, and then like I was in the car earlier with Christina today, and I sold a lot of things to support my own habits. And it's like, I couldn't market that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Like,
when we
how do you put that on a resume?
When we first started the clinic, we didn't have a budget for marketing. Like everything was shoestring, and every single person he saw in the grocery line or we're sitting at a dinner table, he's leaning over to the table next to him. Hey, we have a ketamine clinic. It helps with depression and PTSD.
Hustling,
blah,
man.
blah, blah. Like every single person.
That's what it
takes. And it kept us in business for the first 1.5 2 years.
I was like basically like everything, I told her today, I said, what I used to do, even though it wasn't a good thing, really trained me very well for being a great entrepreneur, because my hustle is like out of this world. And the thing is that also there's, to me, and this, I've told this to people, hundreds of times, where it's like being addicted to opiates was the worst hell I could ever imagine. And if I can make it through that, I can make it through anything, man.
Literally anything.
There's literally, so like we'd be, at the beginning of this journey, because we took a leap of faith to start our company. I did heal with psychedelic medicines, and I had this experience where I felt like God was talking to me, and I was told that I was supposed to quit my jobs and take a leap of faith and start this company with her, because it helped save my life. So I was going to help other people. The same kind of thing with you, or this saved your life, so you were going to help people with it. And I basically, so like we started, like I sold a Rolex that I had, and she took out a small business loan, and we rolled the dice and risked everything when he was 6 months old. Mm-hmm. And so the thing is that like I was relentless, and I was just like, when I was getting put through the grinder, and it was just brutal because there were so many hoops and obstacles that we were having to jump through, and it was just like nobody was taking us seriously at first and everything, I'm like, this isn't as bad as being sick. I was like, this isn't as bad as being dope sick. If I can make it through that, I can make it through anything. Yeah. And like, I think that like, that's what I want people to realize that are going through trials and tribulations of substance abuse issues, is that don't look at this something like it's branding you, or it's like you have this illness where it's something wrong with you for the rest of your life and you need to be labeled as that.
Right.
I think that you can actually shift this into a very positive thing. I just chase my dreams like I used to chase the dope now. And I was relentless going that way. So like, you know, being clear-headed and actually being on top of my game, it's even like 10x fold in this direction. And so like, that was like one of the reasons that I was really like kind of like drawn to you and your story too, is that, listen, man, like, and sobriety is the most important thing, okay? Because if I lose my sobriety, I lose everything else, right?
Yes.
But the fact is that like, I also didn't get sober to just get sober. You know what I'm saying? Like I got sober to manifest a healing organism that's going to help transform humanity to a higher state of consciousness, or help people get off drugs and alcohol and their pharmaceutical medications. What we're doing at the clinic, we just had a guy like a couple months ago that came in and he was full blown, like strung out on fentanyl, like actively in addiction. And because ketamine isn't a respiratory suppressant, you can actually treat people that are on fentanyl, right? And so within 3 weeks, he was 100% clean, man.
Wow.
Completely went through with the withdrawals, did the treatments.
He did not use I would like to cite this because and it drives me crazy because it makes it sound like we treated him while he was taking drugs.
No.
We asked him to please not do that before he came in.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it was very safe for us to treat him at that time.
100%. But like,
but we got him clean.
100%. And listen, like I told you, like briefly before the show, we talked about like how like I had these thoughts of Ohio and stuff like that. One of the reasons that I was so drawn to figuring out how to do something out there is because like I want to help everybody, but when you've gone through opiate addiction and you know what kind of hell that is, there's something that you got a personal attachment to really trying to help people break free from that cycle. And like what we're doing, man, I know it can end the opioid epidemic, and it's literally something we have access to right now. One thing that I heard you talk about on a video recently, though, that is kind of like that is connected to that epidemic, but it's something completely different. What's the new drug that everybody's taking out there that I saw you talking about in a video that's a tranquil?
It's called Xylosine. It's called Xylosine, and it's an animal tranquilizer. And a lot of people don't even know that they're taking it. You know, I think once you become addicted to it, and then once you try fentanyl, there's very little heroin out there anymore. It's mostly fentanyl or carfentanil. But you prefer the trank. They call it trank. The Xylosine is called trank, and it's so scary because it is so new and we don't even know what to do with it yet. And so, you know, when you think about like the development of naloxone, Narcan, to bring somebody out of an opioid overdose, it took years for that to happen, right? Like people were dying left and right. And then now all of a sudden there's this medication that can bring people out of an overdose and save their lives. Well, this is a whole new thing and it doesn't work. Naloxone does not work with it. And so to think about like how much work has to go into this new wave of drugs that people now prefer over fentanyl, how much longer is it going to take until these folks are just dying and we have nothing to do to bring them back?
So this is the stuff that people are taking when you see the videos and everybody's just like slumped over on the sidewalks and stuff like that. And like it's incredibly scary because like he's saying, there's nothing that can actually pull people out of it.
And their skin is like, it's like eating itself away.
It does, yeah. They'll inject it wherever they inject it, and then the next day or hours later, just necrotic skin wounds, openings, like holes in the flesh somewhere else, not even at the injection site. So it's just terrible for the body. Treatment centers have no protocols. Doctors don't know what to do to provide relief from those withdrawal symptoms. So a lot of folks are saying, "Hey, I want to stop," and they're like, we don't accept people that are on Xylosine.
I would love to try to do a clinical study with ketamine about this just to see if it was something that would actually help. See, one of the things that we do is like, it's like whatever the drug of choice, or whatever people are self-medicating with, it's all just a symptom of an underlying issue.
Of course.
And like what we actually do with our medicine is like it sends people into these incredibly profound healing experiences that are like lucid dreams, and it helps people process what they've actually been through to actually get to the root issue and the root cause of why people are self-medicating to begin with. And so it's like, I actually think that like, if like that's, watching I keep going back to Ohio, man, but it's just like, there's a massive opioid epidemic out there that's shifting into this new compound out there. And I feel like, man, it's like, if I could I'm going to watch the synchronicity of everything play out and watch how the universe is going to work itself, man. But like, I have a feeling that I'm going to get out to Ohio and make a big difference out there.
I love it. I'll show you around.
Please.
I think at the end of the day, regardless of what the substance is, like you said, there's a root issue that needs to be addressed. And if all drugs went away today, people would still spin around and get dizzy just to escape from what they're dealing with right now. Like if all drugs went away, if alcohol, if everything disappeared, people would still figure out a way. They'd fly to the moon to find something. And that's the problem. I remember a therapist asking me, if drugs are your answer, what's your problem? What is it that you hate about yourself so much that you can't just be you naturally when you wake up in the morning? Why do you feel like you need to change? Even after you get sober and you go back and you choose with a clear mind, a sober mind, to not be Matt as he wakes up in the morning. You want to alter what Matt is and who he is and how he operates. What is it about yourself that you don't like so much? And I think that it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, 90 years ago, we were putting people in straitjackets who struggled with addiction. The medicine and the psychiatry and the psychology and the social work behind what treatment really looks like, it evolves. It's new. It really is new. And the way that it has been operating for the last few decades, it's just so antiquated. And so to think about all these new things that are coming, right? There's no one solution for this. And I think that the more opportunities there are out there, doesn't matter what it is. It could be the harm reduction conversations that are going on out there. It can be ketamine clinics. It can be psychedelics. It can be abstinence-based. It can be 12 steps or smart recovery. It can be faith-based or not. I mean, it doesn't matter because we need as many options out there as possible to solve this epidemic or to lower the statistics. And at the end of the day, even if it doesn't work, at least we tried, and we have data now to say, you know what, we've tried this thing and it doesn't work. Let's just try these other 10 things that have some evidence behind them, right? Like, I think that anybody that's going out there that's trying to help people right now, I applaud them. I want to work with them. I will refer to them. I will support them. I don't think that there's a wrong way to do this. I think that, again, if your intentions are pure and you're doing it right, then it how can you knock it?
And let's talk a little bit, because I think that it's interesting and I'd like to get your take on it. Somebody the other day asked why I ran. And I was like, oh, well, I'm definitely, I'm not running for no reason. I'm running from something. And I think there's this interesting take, because every day I still choose something to change state. For example, going for a run. Mm-hmm. For example, hitting an ice bath. For all these different things where the current state that I woke up in, like you're talking about, mm-hmm. is not something that in that moment I'm comfortable with or I believe is my most optimal self. So I then need these things to do it. How do you find your outlet in a sense? And for those people, like, is that just a new, like, how do you, what's your mindset around a new addiction, I guess?
Sure.
In that way.
For me personally, I get high every day. I just don't ingest substances to do it. I get high every single day. I got high this morning when I woke up and I looked at my daughter, my 18-month-old daughter, sleeping in the crib in our condo. And I think that the way to do that is truly through gratitude. I heard somebody say one time that a grateful addict will never use. It's impossible to be grateful, to truly be grateful and appreciate this one life that we've been given. This short term that we have here on Earth, 76 years is the average lifespan of someone here in America. To understand what that means in the macro of how big this world is, this universe, and and how many people were here before us and how many people will be here after us, and we get 76 short years. And to be grateful for every single day when I've wasted 10 years already. Man, I can get high off of understanding that I have clean drinking water, and people are dying because they don't have clean drinking water in our world. And so it's not about these like massive things that need to take place in my life. I can find gratitude and truly get more, like if there was an electrode measuring like the dopamine that's hitting my brain on like just going out to dinner with my family and how grateful I am to have that opportunity to do that today, it would fire more than a 5-gallon bucket of heroin could ever make my brain fire. And so I think that like true gratitude is what's so important for me. What we try to do at Team Recovery is recreate what worked for us early on in treatment, right? So treatment was treatment. What more can be done, and how can treatment be offered differently? This traditional talk therapy that happens in so many treatment centers, let's circle up and let's talk, right? There's a good piece to that. But at the end of the day, the number one statistic that we operate off of is the longer someone stays in treatment, the higher chance of success that they have of staying sober long term. So then our response is, how do we get someone to want to be in treatment long term? It has to be enjoyable. Not to say it's going to be fun or easy, and not to say that there's not going to be very like deep, difficult conversations and trying times. But it's our job to figure out how do we do treatment differently while operating within all the regulatory bodies. And so we have a team that is just so creative. It's built off of my chief operating officer was the executive director of one of the largest agencies in Ohio. My chief clinical officer was the CEO of one of the largest agencies in Toledo. My chief nursing officer was the CEO of a geriatric psychiatric hospital. My chief integration officer was slated to be the CEO of the largest homeless shelter in Toledo. I mean, I've this leadership group that brings all this insight from how do you do it right? And then I'm sitting there thinking about how do we do it different? And so the formula, the team at the executive leadership team, we know how to do it right. We know how to do treatment compliantly within, whether it's Department of Medicaid or the state of Ohio or CARF or any of these other regulatory bodies that say this is how it has to be done. I'm thinking of how can we do it different? I'm always thinking of, you know what, this sounds great. This program that we're setting up, that's really cool. But what about at nighttime when the clients are going to get really bored and they're going to think about leaving? Because I've been there. And so it's like we need to put a 2-hour slot in the evening time, even though that's going to cost more money and we're going to have to hire more people. It's going to be better for our clients, and nobody else is doing that. And so just like thinking you got to have fun, right? Like it makes it very difficult to want to stay sober if you're not having fun. Treatment is so important. And when I talk about that, it's not just sitting in the room. Like you have to have the right people. You have to have from like literally day one of orientation and onboarding to show what that system looks like so that they feel comfortable enough to operate within that system. They're so comfortable, now all they have to do is be themselves. And when people can do that, they're able to develop that rapport and that therapeutic alliance with a client to where they're getting something that doesn't feel like a system. And that's what I felt so many times and that's why I had to go create that system outside of treatment with the team. We had to go do all these things. We had to go create our own activities and do all this fun stuff. We do that for our clients. We show them how to have fun. We show them what good treatment looks like. We show them what service work looks like. We show them what an outside program of recovery looks like, because at some point when you leave treatment, you're going to have to work on yourself every single day. And however you choose to do that is a beautiful thing. There's no singular path to staying sober for as long as you're here on earth, but you have to do something. Something has to be done, whether it's exercise or a 12-step group, or maybe you're big into faith, and that's what you need to keep progressing and growing and healing. But to show people that you're in this safe bubble for 4 months, 6 months, whatever it is. Once the rubber meets the road, there's so much more work that needs to be done. So really preparing for what that looks like. When we do an intake on day 1, we're prepping for discharge at month 6 to really prepare that individual and make sure that we've done our job to set them up for success. I've been part of another agency before I started Team Recovery. I worked at another agency, and And I'll tell you that the worst feeling in the world is feeling like you could have done better for a client. It's the worst feeling in the world. And I don't ever want to feel that way ever again. And so I take that very personally, and our team knows that, and our whole team then takes it personally. So this is way bigger than just operating a company. This is life and death.
I love how you're thinking outside of the norm when it comes to like the recovery box, the proverbial box.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I know from my personal experience that the box doesn't exist. See, like, and I love your viewpoint that there is no box either, because a lot of times when you get into these recovery conversations, people are like, this is the way you recover and this is the way it's supposed to happen. And like, you do this, this, and this because this is what worked for me. And like, the thing is that everybody's on their own individual healing journey. And like, so like what works for one person might not work for the next. I actually like, you know, I used to go to a lot of meetings, and one of the reasons I stopped going to so many was because when we were actually getting ready to start the company, I was telling people that we were going to be opening a ketamine clinic, and people were getting upset with me. And they were just like, what does that have to do with the steps? And I'm just like, well, I'm like, not like much, but like we're going to help heal trauma and stuff like that and everything. And like there was so much negative backlash about it. I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to put all my energy into doing this and helping people. And see, and I love the fact that you're open-minded about like, you know, hey, listen, if this is what works for you, well, then that's great. And I'm happy that if it's going to be ketamine, or if it's going to be other psychedelics, or if it's going to be a faith-based thing, or a mixture of all of it, at the end of the day, I just don't want people to die anymore from taking these substances. And the thing is that like, it's because you're taking all of your knowledge and you're taking your passion behind getting pulled out of that deep, dark place, and you're applying it to something because you feel the same way. And see, like, I think that when you're talking about healers, okay, or we can put whatever other label that you want, and at the end of the day, you are that, man. Because see, the thing is that the best healers in my book are the people that have healed themselves, the people that went through the trials and the tribulations or the darkness and made their way out to the light, and now we be of service and go back and help other people. And so like, that's another message that like I want people that are going through these kind of issues to realize, is that you might not realize it when you're in the midst of everything, when you're going through the darkness and you feel helpless and hopeless, and this is a big punishment from God, and now you're like, why is this happening to me? How come I can't be like everybody else? And the fact is that God, or whatever you believe in, the universe, whatever label you want to put on it, tends to give its hardest trials and tribulations to its toughest warriors that are going to be there to help and be of service for other people. So like, you know, my buddy Nick Stanstonato talks about, it's like, go from being a victim to a victor, and realizing that every single thing that you're actually going through, if you make it out to the other side, can be applied from a personal experiential standpoint for the greater good, to be of the highest service possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know?
I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah.
I talk about this stuff all day.
Heck yeah, brother.
I love it. And I think it's important for me because I do believe in God. And I think that, that's, a lot of people will ask me that. I get clients asking me that all the time. And I think that it's, when I came into recovery, I certainly wasn't an atheist, but more of an agnostic. Why would God have let these things happen in my life if God was real? And again, grew up in the church, and I'm just very, very proud to say that I am reconnected with my faith. That I pray every single morning, I pray every night, and I have that relationship with God has changed so much in my recovery over the last 9 years through prayer and meditation. And when I really think about it, there's no other way to explain it other than God. There's no way that I would have gone through. I mean, if I could tell you the stories of things that happened and how many times I should have died or gotten beaten to death or gotten shot with guns to my head or having a gun in my own mouth, there's no way that I should still be here other than for God. And when I really think about that, it's like, I'm a God-fearing individual. I know that one day I will meet him, and that will be the judgment day for me of whether or not I'm going through those gates. And so for me to have lived through all that, like I believe that God will not take you to something if he won't take you through it. I believe that God has an answer for all prayers, and sometimes that answer is no. And I believe that my book's already been written and I'm just living the pages. And I'm very grateful to just know that, to just really understand that and believe that and know that that is my life. And I'm just fortunate to have one.
One of the last things I wanted to touch on was like when you talk about gratitude, man, like everything's vibration and frequency to me. And I believe that gratitude and love are like the two highest vibrational places that you can be coming from. And like another reason why it's a superpower to have gone to those really deep, dark places is like, it's not hard for me to be grateful these days, man.
Right.
Like, I got a beautiful woman in my life. I got an amazing son. I have a company that's helping people saving people's lives. I get to show up and like watch that unfold in front of my eyes every day. I tell people any day that I don't have to wake up and stick a needle in my arm, or, I don't have to eat chow at 4:30 in the morning, or
oh my God,
whatever it is, like, it's like, I'm incredibly grateful all the times. And I'm actually very grateful for having to be like, incarcerated like that and having to go through those things, because like it takes me to such a higher place of gratitude. I don't think of like, necessarily what I have everything I need. I might not have everything I want, but I'm very grateful for everything that I do have. And the fact is that that's how we attract very positive things into our lives. God, it's like, if I sit there and complain about how my life's miserable and I don't have what I want or whatever and stuff like that, God's going to end up giving you more of that. And then if you sit there and you're grateful for what you do have and you're like very, hey, thank you so much for all of my blessings and I appreciate you, that's usually what God will sit there and deliver on a plate too. So it's like gratitude is the most important part of my life. Every single day when I wake up and open my eyes, the first thing that I do is go, I am grateful. And I speak it into existence and I start my day off in a place of gratitude. And then when I do that, God tends to keep on giving me things to be grateful for. And the truth is too, is like, I'm very grateful for all of the butt kickings I take also, because this is God molding me into the individual that I need to be the highest level of service. So it's like, there is no growth in the comfort zone. We got to go through those tough times, because like, if everything was easy all the time, we wouldn't grow.
Right. Or everybody would do it.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think about like when I got clean, I wanted a pack of Newports and a pair of Jordans. That's what I wanted. Like that was like my goal.
I've been
for
there, man.
Getting out of detox. I was like, when I go to the recovery house, I'd really love a pack of Newports instead of bumming off of everybody else. And I'd love a new pair of shoes. I'd love a pair of Jordans. I don't smoke cigarettes or wear Jordans anymore. It's like the things, if I would have set these goals of what I wanted or could have had on, day 5 or day 30 of sobriety, I would have sold myself so short. In fact, I had a therapy session with one of my therapists when I was in treatment. She asked me to set, 60-day goals, 90-day goals. And I was like, I really can't do that. I can't tell you where I'm going to be in a year. And she's like, well, I need you to complete this assignment. And I was like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would I put that I'll have my apartment and a car and my son back? Why would I put that? Why can't I have a home and 2 cars and have my son back? What, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to put that on there, because I believe that manifesting things is very real. And I don't even want to put that on a piece of paper, because I'm capable of so much more. And I know that I'm going to work so much harder and I will achieve that in 3 months instead of a year. You know what I mean? So it's like the things that I have today, and just kind of going back to, how do I experience that feeling of what makes me, what gets me high today, or, like what takes the stress away. It's achieving goals, man. Like, it's achieving goals, and it's trying new things, and it's traveling the world and getting outside of Toledo, Ohio, and just learning new cultures. And I went back to school. I'll have my master's degree in May of next year. Just learning and becoming better and doing more and injecting myself around people that have done that. I don't have a ton of friends. I hang out with my family and I'm at work. I haven't had a day off of work truly in 9 years. I don't take days off. I was doing homework and working on my honeymoon in Sardinia, Italy. Like, I don't take time off. But again, that's what I like. That's what makes me happy. My wife supports it, and she doesn't make me feel bad for being that way or doing that.
It's not work when you love what you do.
I love what I do, man. And it's truly like, it's like to see people, to know that people are getting better through what we're doing. I'll stay up 48 hours if you need me to. I'll stay up. You just tell me what you need and I'll do it. There is no no, just like in addiction, there is no. But I just like to grow. I always like to grow and do better. And I've got 2 or 3 friends that I call like really close friends that I'll do stuff with if it's not with my family. But aside from that, man, I'm injecting myself around people that know stuff that I don't know. I've never even heard of before. I was talking with a guy the other day who owns his real estate through his 401k. I'm like, what is that? I didn't even know you could do that you could own real estate through your 401k. And he was talking about all these, ways to reduce tax obligations and things of that nature through that. And I was like, see, this is what I'm talking about. These are the type of people. I want to know more about how to make team recovery more trauma informed. I'm so glad that I went back to school to become a social worker. I'll likely never provide direct patient care as a social worker. I can't say never, but my intention of going back to school was just to learn more. I want to know. I don't want to just know the business side. I know the business side. I know the personal side, the lived experience side. I want to know what my therapists are going through. I want to know what a diagnostic assessment looks like. I want to know how interruptive our electronic health record system is to a therapy session, because I'll fix it, right? Like, our staff sometimes don't understand that these things can be fixed. They say that, okay, well, this is the EHR, this is the way that it's set up, and I guess this therapy session isn't going to be that great because the EHR is very non-user friendly. If I learn that, I'll figure out how to make it user friendly so that the experience itself is better. And so, just 5 years in school, I did that to make the company better, not to become a licensed social worker and provide social work to people. And I don't care what it takes. If it's I will likely be doing team recovery until the day I die. I get people all the time asking me if I'm going to sell it. Absolutely not.
You guys are like the same.
Absolutely not.
I feel like
I got a call the other day. I got a call the other day from
body.
I got a call the other day from a merger and acquisition. I don't even know how these people find you and find out what they're.
We got one 2 days ago,
and they know what you're making. They're like, here's the 8x multiple on EBITDA, and we'll give you 48 million right now. It's like, I'm not even responding. I don't want that. That's not why I did this. I wanted a new pair of Jordans and a pack of cigarettes. I didn't want that.
Yeah.
I still don't want that. I have everything that I need, and I'm happy. And doing this work, there's no dollar amount that anybody could ever offer. Truly, that's not how I was built. That's not how I was raised, and that's not what makes me happy.
I get it's like, what's your exit plan? What are you talking about, man?
Yeah.
This is what I love to do. And I know there's other ways to exit that would make sense and stuff like that, where you still get to do the same thing. But I don't even think about that. It's not even a blip on my radar, man. It's like, I have this conversation all the time. I'm going to do this until the day I die. Mm-hmm. I'm going to help. It's the only reason why my life makes sense, because it didn't make sense for so many years. It's like, why am I going through all of this? How come I can't be like everybody else? And it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. I went through all of that so I can do this. Yeah. And it's like, so just like you said, there's nothing else for me. Yeah. There's no plan B. Yeah. This is it, man. Yeah. And I was either going to do it or I was going to die trying to do it. Yeah. And the thing, and I really resonate too, is I get high all the time too, man. Mm-hmm. When I sit there and I am talking to somebody that's in the middle of their healing journey, and all of a sudden, I see they're having a breakthrough, and I can tell we're getting somewhere. And then the student becomes the teacher, because I'm sitting there and they're going through something, right? And I have this mic dropping moment where I spit bars, and I'm just like, boom, boom, this is what you're supposed to do. Not because I'm telling you what to do, but I'm like, I went through a similar situation in my life, and this is what I did when I went through that or whatever. and I'm relearning a lesson again because I'll give them this amazing advice, and then 3 days later I got to eat my own words, and I'm like, oh, I see what you did there, man. I was sitting there speaking to myself the whole time so I could level up and learn that lesson again from a different point of view and stuff like that. And it's like, and then all of a sudden I start getting goosebumps everywhere, and
I'm getting them right now.
The electricity's going, and I'm like, thank you. I like from a non like ego based place, like I'm like the most grateful recovering addict you could possibly imagine being, and I'm sure you are too, because I'm just like, thank you so much for putting me all through that, because I couldn't be happier doing anything else with myself.
Amen.
Heck yeah, brother. Well,
It was another amazing episode. Thank you for being here with us.
Oh my gosh,
today.
thank you guys for inviting me. I'm glad
I
we were able
really
to do this.
feel like I was watching a different version of Charles the whole entire time. And that says a lot because I live with him. And I listen to all his stories, and all of your stories are eerily similar to all of his stories.
I love that.
No one's told you that they love you lately?
we do.